Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Lunar Counseling Podcast. I'm your host, Kiara Brown, licensed professional counselor, EMDR certified therapist, a certified hypnotherapist, and the owner of Lunar Counseling. This podcast is a space for grounded, real conversations with therapists, healers, and guides for the deeper layers of mental health, trauma, what it actually means to come back to ourselves. So today, I am excited to welcome M'ilee to the podcast. M'ilee is a trauma-informed counselor and guide whose work centers on helping people feel safe enough to soften, breathe, and remember who they are. She weaves together evidence-based therapy, somatic and bilateral practices, and I deep believe that joy belongs in the healing process. M'ilee is known for creating spaces that feel grounded, compassionate, and quietly transformative. Spaces where nothing has to be forced and nothing about healing has to be rushed. Her work is a reminder that healing doesn't have to be rigid or overwhelming. It can be gentle, it can be beautiful, and sometimes it can even feel a little magical. So, welcome, M'ilee. Thank you so much for being here. So,
Thank you so much.
of course. So, I'd love to ask everyone what brought you into the therapy world?
Oh, a loaded question right off the bat. I love it. I feel like we are all often led to paths to be who we needed when we were younger and didn't have. I would say that my passion for helping others just comes from a place of those around me when I was younger needing help themselves and not being able to give it.
You kind of became like their own like helper and healer at a young age because no one else was getting it.
Yeah, definitely. There was times that as children we need people, and there were. I grew up in a great community, and there were always people around to give that guidance. But sometimes the people that I really looked for it from weren't able to give it, and I gave it to them. And from a young age, just grew into this role and ran with it.
Okay. So, yeah, kind of like I like the elasticity piece, like you give to others even whenever you didn't always get it yourself. So, my follow-up question is, are you getting what you need now? Those
Aha.
in your life.
Yeah, I think you go through all this education to teach others in a way, then you also get to learn it yourself. And then as you're LPC as well, I saw. And so you learn the tools and go through all the practices of learning how to teach them to other people and get to teach them to yourself. And through the practice of school as well, I was lucky enough to get paired with some really great counselors to teach me, but also hold that counselor role for me to process some of that stuff.
Really cool. So, on your whole journey, like as a therapist, what do you feel has been the most powerful or inspirational part of your journey?
Oh man. Okay. I think just this ability to live my life and so not in my role in becoming a therapist, but as I was beginning, because I did a lot of other things in the meantime, but I had a stage 3 cancer diagnosis. So had to go through chemo and radiation and that kind of unknowing if I was going to make it or if I was going to leave my kid without a mom. And not only had I just gotten into the whole therapy world, but then was faced with the existential, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in my life? So it really just everything fell into place for me and gave me this new insight into what my life really needed to be about and dig deeper into who we are as humans and what we need to really embrace the magic that is within us that we can all find and share and live such more meaningful lives.
And so, it's must have been like so scary to have like that diagnosis. How long have you been in remission?
I actually just about 6 months ago got to ring my cancer-free bell. With the type of cancer I had, if you make it for 5 years, you're considered cured, more or less. It's not really like that, but so It's been just over 5 years since my diagnosis and treatment.
Wow, that's amazing. That
Yes.
probably like it's just like a huge like release to know 5 years is like gone and everything is as well as it needs to be.
As well as it needs to be. Yep, there's stuff that hangs on that will never be the same, but to be alive is I always get to come back to that now as this base point. Like, it's okay. I'm here and have this opportunity to help others feel the gratitude of being here in my everyday job.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so powerful. So I know you mentioned a little bit that you bring your story into like your therapy practice. And so in what ways do you use that story to help your clients?
Man, I don't know that I don't typically share that story with my clients unless if something's coming up in their lives that I feel that story might be beneficial, I'll share it. But I think really it just comes across in my ways of trying to help them see what can be without being a direct story to what I've been through. But definitely pieces of it come up here and there.
I think that's like a resiliency thing. Like you can get through the hard things because like you've gone through hard things in the past. And if you guys like you might be down and out for a little bit doesn't mean like you're down and out forever, essentially.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. It's hard, but you've done hard and let's figure out where hard is coming from so that we can move forward and make hard easier to handle.
And I sure that they say know your story, that probably would be like even more impressed and have like you had a cheerleader in the background, like knowing like hard is everyone's heart is different, obviously, but like your willingness to go through the hard things can lead to these amazing outcomes. And so you have to be a testimony, but you can be a testimonial. Like I went through a really hard time myself. Not that I always disclose it, but I'm here now and everything is like working out better than what I imagined or whatever phrasing you want to say with it.
Yeah, absolutely. People definitely can get some excited. I'm so sorry. It's my alarm. Yes, people can definitely hear stories of other people's survival and be inspired and gives them hope, right? We're all
Yeah.
always looking for hope. And one of my favorite quotes when I was going through everything was, you have been given this mountain to show others it can be climbed. And so I think that just speaks to what we're talking about here.
That is so true. And who said that? Do you know who said that?
I don't know who said that quote. I should. I've said it enough. I should know who quotes it.
It's very powerful. So I would love to look it up too. But no, that's so cool. So no, I'm asking then, like when you're going, so that's 5 years ago, you got your diagnosis, you've been 5 years free. What'd you do like in the meantime to help take care of yourself? Or were you in the practice at that point, or where were you at in your stage of your career?
At that point in my career, I was still working as a school counselor, still counseling, just in a different capacity. So just, I don't know, I worked at a great school, then had amazing coworkers. I had a coworker who would give me a ride to work every day and drop my kiddo off at daycare, which was immensely helpful because I was exhausted. And then obviously insurance is a huge thing, right? So you have to be there's so many different ways you need help, and financially is such a big one. So I had great insurance through the school that I worked at. I had a good friend who helped set up a little GoFundMe for all the things that were covered when I couldn't work. So just friends, family, coworkers that all we came together and made sure I got through it as well as I could.
Perfect. I'm glad that you had like, those supportive people because that really does make the difference. Like whenever you have that support and like everyone giving you like their hope and healing energy through all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so cool. So when did you transition from being a school counselor into like private practice?
2 years ago, about.
That's so exciting.
Yeah. It's been an incredible journey. I guess it's more like a year and a half ago. No, almost really close to 2 years. But yes, was excited to get out of the school. I had done it for 8 years and was ready for something new, but started my transition working in one area with kids and in another area with grief and trauma, more with adults, specifically women, and then tried them both on to see where I felt I could make the biggest difference. And then slowly just transitioned into working with women and grief.
These are just like overarching grief.
Man, overarching grief, because grief is in all the things, right? A sense of anything that happens, almost always there's this piece of it that's grief. Like, even if you intentionally change jobs, right? Not like you get fired and go find a new job, but just a job transition. There's even there a small piece of loss for this job or your coworkers or the good parts of whatever you had of why you're leaving. So even in small things that feel good, there's still this layer of grief. So overarching, because it just infiltrates all these areas of our life.
And that's so true because grief really can impact everything. I think a lot happens a lot with women because we go through so many changes in our lives. Like we go from being single to being in a relationship, and from like just in a relationship to even being married, like even those to like happy things. It's still like those my grief, like and losing a little bit of like yourself. And like you also get like,
Yes.
all of yourself, but you still lose a little bit of yourself with each new stage of your relationship. And going from not having kids to having kids. That's big.
Yes. It's huge. So yeah, there's so much loss there, and we don't even look at it that way, because if women do try to share that with people, are like, oh, you should be happy or grateful, or but look at all these amazing things you have. And while that is true, so is the part of you that's grieving.
Survivor for myself personally, going from not having kids to having my son, I'm like, I can't just leave my house by myself anymore.
Yes. Yeah, it
So
makes
always have my baby with me.
yes, everything's way more challenging and also way more full of love. And both of those
Yeah.
can be true at the same time.
Yes. That's what the hard part for people to realize is like we can be happy for the new things in our lives, but also like sad for things that we're not having anymore. Like both opposites can be true at the same time. But some people want it to be either black or white, but there's so many shades of gray with so many things. Like you can't be black or white.
Yes. Man, and I don't know if you've noticed this as well, or you were already naturally this way, but the world of counseling really opens your eyes to how grayscale the world is. It's not black and white. And growing up, I think a lot of people live more in the black and white. And as we get older in general, can see the nuances of things. But just from the counseling perspective, you hear all these stories, and there's no right or wrong side to most of them.
I'm like leaning more towards like black and white, like obviously when I was younger. But like you definitely in the field, like you definitely learn more about the gray. Because like even it's gonna be some extreme, but even like people that are victims of abuse, there's usually like some gray in that. Like they were probably abused themselves or something else could have happened. And there's like usually a reason for why the behavior started. I am no way excusing the abuse that they had perpetrated, but there's something happening to them that makes them
Yeah,
behave.
I hear you. Yeah, absolutely. It's not an excuse, and it definitely shouldn't have happened. But yes, there is always a story behind the story. Yeah,
Yeah. I
that
think
is
we're
an
like,
go
sorry,
ahead.
yeah.
I was going to say that is an extreme case, and it is hard from the outside to see that and be like, oh, but we should have empathy for the abuser. And I know that's not where this is going, but they do have a story. And almost always, in the stories that I've heard, at least, it's that they were abused, right? So it's a cycle of not knowing better until somebody does know better and makes the changes in their life.
I know I went straight in there because yeah, I have no way excusing any form of abuse, regardless of who perpetrates it. But just knowing, yeah, there's always the shades of gray with things. And I have no way, I'm in no way excusing any like horrific assaults.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Important point.
Yeah. But no, so for just your own journey, things you went through led you to like being able to hold space for all that grief. Because like it's a hard thing to hold. I deal with trauma, but like grief in itself is also like really challenging to hold space for too.
Yeah, they're all challenging, but I love that you use the term holding space because so much of what we do is just that. And I think you learn to, as a person, sit with somebody and give them that space and allow all the feelings that exist to be there and be okay. But then as a counselor, be able to then work through whatever that brings up in you so that you can say goodbye to him and hello to the next person that walks in your door.
Really, like, in that moment, like that space is for them and them alone and all of their things. And then when the time ends, it's okay. Let's box up your thing, put it on the shelf, and now it's okay. Now here's the box for this next person to pour in their stuff to hold space for them. You have to
Yeah.
keep on boxing it up and putting it away until you clear it up at the end of the day.
Yep. Exactly. But it's, yeah, doable. And I think that's one of the, I don't know why our training is so extensive because we not only have to be able to help them through it, we have to help them through it and then make sure that we don't take it home.
Yes. Yeah, that's so true. So,
Yeah.
what is your biggest tip for not taking the things home after the end of the day?
Mine would be so working just as my journey has gone, it led me, I think you said you are also an EMDR therapist, right? Love that. Okay. So the body awareness that learning EMDR gave me, and then taking that and moving even further into somatics was really just like mind blowing for me because growing up, and I teach this to many of my clients, right? Growing up, people aren't teaching you how to actually feel your emotions. And
Yeah.
they're feelings that you name, but nobody's ever, oh, you can actually feel it in your body. So when I was like 35 and finally figured out that your feelings are a physical sensation in your body, just was world changing for me. Somatics, that is how I work through my stuff.
You're right. They don't teach it. Even whenever I was in grad school, like it was all like CBT, just like more logical things. There's hardly any talk about the more somatic things that you can do. Some way to graduate from grad school and then do all the extra training to get these extra lessons. That's like the somatic piece should be one of the main things that we learn too. Just because mind and body connection is major, so major
Yeah.
for like
Yeah,
overall well
it's
being.
absolutely. It's insane. So, one of the first exercises I actually have any of my clients do, and I give them fair warning. I say, listen, I know this is going to sound really weird, but I want you to breathe into your toes. And so then they relax and they give it a shot and hit or miss. First time, it's tricky. And then ask, what sensations do you notice in your toes? And typically, after a try or two, sometimes it takes longer, they can feel like a tingling or they have their own name for it. And that's their like first experience ever in feeling a sensation in their body. And then we roll from that into getting into the EMDR stuff and noticing things and going with that.
You're part of breathing into your toes. It's always been like just
I know it's
breathe into your belly and have your belly feel like a balloon. But that's so cool. How'd you come up with that?
I have no idea. It just as things that's a good question. I'm gonna have to think about it. I think because it's so far fetched, it really puts people in their like, what in the world is this about? And then they can physically feel it so quickly. I don't know what it is about the toes. They're so far away. I don't know. I wanted to get out of the chest belly because everybody, you have an anxiety attack and people are like, just take deep breaths. But what the heck? What does that even mean? And like, really, like, you should be finding the part that's tight and breathing into the center of it. So just having more breath awareness and moving from there.
Is that true? I think for me, I learned more about doing like the more deeper breath work whenever I was doing hypnosis training versus my EMDR training. And so I
Yeah.
hypnosis more than these EMDR personally. But
Hypnosis is on the next thing I want to learn is hypnosis. It's fascinating. And I think that the results that people get from it are unreal.
it's astounding. Like even just using it myself has been so mind blowing, life changing. I can't. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, I am really sorry to cut this short, but I actually have a client that I just heard walk in the door, so I do have to go.
Yeah. I know I should keep an eye on time too. So real quick before we wrap up, how do you prefer people to find you and leave them like one little tip?
Okay, I'm sorry, you cut out while you were saying that one more time.
Um, how do you prefer people to find you? What's one little tip you want to leave them with?
My Instagram page is a great way to find me and send me a message, and I try to post little just helpful bits and pieces of ways to enjoy your life more on there. And I guess my one thing to leave people with is to find a place that you can relax and take a deep breath into your toes and see what you notice.
So thank you so much, Emily, for joining us today. All your information will be at the bottom of the video for people to find you. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Okay. So thank you so much. Bye.